Hey, good morning. It's Victoria with Finding My Voice. Thanks for stopping in. Today I wanted to talk about starting my YouTube channel and what I've been doing, how I've been doing it. Super simple, low tech. If that's of interest to you, stay tuned. It's something that I have been thinking about for several months. I spent time on YouTube. I learn a lot of things from YouTube. I know there is a renaissance right now for people that are in their 60s and 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about why I'm interested in doing it and what I'm doing so far. So for me, what I'm interested in doing is sharing some of the information that I know about a few things, but also just finding my voice, right? What in some of my previous videos, what I've talked about is I'm at a point in my life where my kids are now in their 20s and they're at college. I was a caregiver for my parents for many years. They are both gone, sadly. And so I'm now at the phase of my life where I'm just rediscovering myself. And I have watched a lot of people do this on YouTube, and I really love it. I found it so motivating, and so I've decided that I want to try it out myself. And so today is one of these shorty videos about something that I've been thinking about, just like the process that I'm using to start it. And I had committed to myself that I was going to record several different videos and upload them this weekend, so this is the start of that. So how did I come to this, right? Like I did talk about this in another video. I have in the past, many years, let's start with the pandemic, right? In the pandemic, I found a bunch of different interests that I enjoyed because everybody was needing to find that. We weren't socializing with other people. We weren't out in the world. And I got back into sewing. I started knitting. I did a ton of puzzles, which I absolutely love. And for me, different than a lot of other people I think in the world, I actually had the two busiest years of my career during the pandemic, in 2020 and 2021. And that's because I work in the ed tech world, education technology. I work for a small consulting firm. We provide consulting services as well as digital solutions in literacy and math for schools. So as you can imagine, it was crazy and super busy. But starting in that period, I did watch a lot more TV and a lot more YouTube than I ever have in my life. I'm not a big TV person. I'm always behind whatever the current series is. I watch it usually 5 years later. But I found YouTube to be really fascinating. And my entry point into YouTube was actually listening to people sing, listening to amateurs sing. I love that. I get such joy out of that. But I branched out after that, started looking at different things. And so that's one thing. I find it interesting. I find it compelling. Another thing is I have a couple of different things going on in my life that I think are not talked about enough in our culture. We don't talk about the struggles that women have when they're trying to get pregnant, trying to breastfeed, and the childbearing years. We don't talk about the struggle that women have when they are both raising children and caretaking. We don't talk about women's health issues. We don't talk enough to young women about what they can expect when they're approaching middle age and beyond. All of those things I feel like are really valid, right? And women want to hear about it. Young women want to hear about it. Older women want to hear about it. Maybe even men want to hear about it. I don't know. So for me, part of this is a discovery of finding my own voice and talking about the things that have been useful and meaningful to me. I'm going to pause here and say, if this is useful to you, if you think this is an interesting topic, please do like and subscribe. And I'm going to tell you the why. The why is because if you do those two things, this video will reach more people that need to hear this kind of conversation. Moving on. So today what I want to talk about is like what I'm doing to start my YouTube channel. Super low tech. I'm not a bells and whistles person. I'm very streamlined. I don't want to actually dive into all the technology and know how it works. I just want it to work. That's my MO, always has been. And so for me, what I'm doing is right now I'm using my iPhone. I'm using my, earbuds. I do have my phone set up on a ring light. I have a ring light because for my work, I've been on Zoom. Honestly, I've been on digital meetings for a decade and really intensively since the pandemic started. So I do have some of the basics. What I'm thinking about after doing research on YouTube, really just for like the last 2 weeks, is what I'm thinking about is adding as a microphone, like a clip microphone, so that I can be out in the world I do actually have a couple of tripods, a small one and a long one, so I could use that, if I'm walking along and talking. I am thinking about subscriptions, so I'll probably subscribe to YouTube Premium. But for initially, I'm actually going to stay as a free user because I want to understand what your experience is, right? Like when I'm watching YouTube, I'm always getting interrupted by ads, and I want to stay experiencing that for a little while. But I might ultimately subscribe into a premium for that. I'm looking at a couple of different video editing softwares, and two that have sort of risen to the top for me that I'm going to explore are CapCut. I've heard that mentioned over and over and over again, and Canva. I'm not sure if Canva is good for video editing or just still editing. I'm pretty sure it's the still editing, but again, I'm going to explore it. So I might be buying those subscriptions. And really, I'm doing this mostly to share information and share knowledge at this point. But I have a consulting business that I've used in the past. I've used it for work before. I've used it for other things. And so because I do already have an LLC set up, I am going to make all my purchases through my LLC. And if, my YouTube channel takes off, then I'm set up correctly. I can just talk to an accountant. All my business expenses have already run through an LLC. I don't think you need to do that, right? I think you can wait and see if it's something you like, if it's something you want to do, if it's something, like maybe I'm going to make 10 videos and it never goes anywhere. That's totally fine too, right? But since I do have those things in place, I'm using that to set it up. So what I did is, in the thinking phase, is I just got out my handy, trusty notebook, and I started writing down things that I might want to talk about. I'm really into cats. I'll talk about this at some point. I foster kittens. I love animals. But what I did is I just literally started writing out my ideas. I have pages and pages and pages of things that I could talk about. And that is how I came up actually with my handle, Finding My Voice, because through all of the different things that have been happening in my life in the past, decade, honestly, I did lose myself a little bit. I lost my voice. And I am in a phase right now where I'm really excited again to discover who I am again in my 60s. In a previous video, what I talked about is I had my kids late in life. I had my first son at 38 and my second son at 41. They're lovely. They're doing so well. They're both going to Oregon State University. And so that was in my 40s. So I was childbearing through my 40s and my 50s. Not childbearing, I was child rearing through my 40s and 50s. I have a very strong partner. We did that together, right? So I wasn't single parenting. I'm not trying to represent that, but it was a lot of my life in those years. And then starting about 10 years ago, my parents both started really struggling with their health. My father, from I think a regular aging and health perspective, and my mom also from the regular aging perspective, but again, I mentioned this on a previous video, she struggled with schizophrenia her whole life. It was medically controlled in many years, starting about when I was probably in my 30s, it was medically controlled. I'm 62 now, so that was a lot of years where I was growing up, where I grew up with a schizophrenic mom who was struggling with the medications they had at the time. Very smart woman, but there's a lot that goes into that. And so then in the caretaking years, the last 10 years, and really intensively for the last 5 years, her schizophrenia was breaking through a lot. And it was very, very difficult and very traumatic for me, not only me, but for my family, my extended family. And through all of that, plus the changes that women go through in their 50s and 60s, I feel like I lost my voice a little bit, right? I was just treading. I had my nose, barely above water. And I was paddling as hard as I could and just trying to survive. And I've come through that now. Like I said, my kids are doing well. My partner is doing really well. I'm doing really well. And now I'm interested in figuring out who I am again at 60. I feel like the years between 40 and 60 just went by in the blink of an eye. And at the same time that it was hard and difficult, I also built a lot of resilience. I came to have a lot of confidence in myself. And one of the other things that's super freeing in my 60s is I just don't really care what other people think anymore, right? I talked about this in one of my other videos. Somebody told me in my 20s I was going to be a fine arts major. And somebody told me in my 20s that I had no talent, and I believed them. Boo on me. Now I'm in my 60s. I really don't give a shit if I have no talent, right? Pardon my French. I enjoy making art, so now I'm doing it again. And that's what my message is start figuring out who you are, do the things you love, and spend the last, season of your life. I hope that I'm going to live to be 120 years old, like my dad would say. But just in case I'm not, I want to make sure that I have done everything I can in this next decade to really enjoy my life. One, for myself and for my family and for my larger community, both in person and virtual, but also because this is how I am going to age gracefully. I am going to stay young. I am going to stay engaged. My mind will not falter. This is how my body will stay supple. This is how I can take everything that I've learned in this one wild and precious life that I've had and share it with the world and leave a legacy. And one of the things that's important to me is that young women see strong women. They see women who are beautiful and bold and engaging as they age. I came, again, late to the party online. I discovered Batty Winkle after she had already passed, but I've watched a lot of her videos. She was an amazing human being. What an amazing soul. That is what I want. That's the legacy I want to leave. And I want to share both the ups and the downs, the joys and the sorrows. And so that is why I'm starting my YouTube channel, and I'm inviting you to join me on that journey. What I'm going to do is post regularly on a whole bunch of different topics, but once a week I'll try to give an update on what I've learned this week about starting up a YouTube channel, the people that I like, the equipment that I've bought and tried out, the things that have worked, the things that have not worked. So please join me on my journey. And again, if this is exciting to you, if this is a message you want to hear, please like the video, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Here's to us.